University of Maryland Global Campus has more than 20 years' experience providing affordable online education to military service members and working adults. Offering low tuition, no-cost digital resources replacing most textbooks, scholarships for those who qualify, and more. Learn more at umgc.edu/podcast.
It's the holidays, which usually means employing your surprise face. But winter-winning scratchers are loaded with $500 prizes, so there's always a surprise. Unlike the 27th snowflake ornament from Grandma. Play along with holiday scratchers from the Virginia Lottery at a retailer near you. For odds and more information, visit valottery.com.
Hey everyone, this is the Almost World Podcast. Bringing to you mind-blowing interviews with guests from all over the world. So settle down, relax, and enjoy the show. Oh yeah, by the way, if you like the podcast, please support Elmo's World Podcast on Patreon. Your support is what helps the podcast improve more and more. Stephen Cooper, he is 26 years old. He is from Georgia in the United States. And he graduated from Columbus State University and has a degree in political science.
Like I said, I'm 26 political science, degree. I focus on philosophy and a reason as to why things exist and how should we live. To answer your question, do I believe in God? I think, yeah. I mean, everyone believes in a power bigger than itself. Even if you believe in an atheist, if you look at ancient Greek, they had a god called a guy who was agnostic. That was an actual god. So being atheist, you believe in a god. It's just that there's no existence of a god, so you just don't believe that God actually has a body. I guess it's be out of tradition and faith, desire of the non-knowing. If there is a God, it's better to believe in him and hope that I'm doing things by him that is correct, rather than there is a God, I don't believe in him, and then I do things.
Okay, so it seems that what the cause of your belief is similar to Pascal's wager, where you believe in God because it would be better to believe than suffer the consequences of not believing. Why do you think that the believing would be something beneficial? Because you could actually live your life in a godless way and be much.
You could, but it could be said the opposite. You can live your life in a godful way and be very much happy. So the question becomes which way makes you happy? And if you choose the path that you believe that will provide you the best satisfaction.
Okay, then from what you're saying, then I'm hearing that you believe in God because that seems to be the path that makes you happy. That seems to be some sort of preference instead of logically concluding that there is a God based on any information that you've received. It's just that I'm doing this, I'm believing in God because it makes me happy. And I have no reason to believe otherwise.
That's funny you say that, because even if there was an atheist would say that I don't believe in God because there's no evidence there is a God, but there's no evidence there isn't a God either. So atheists would be choosing to not believe in God out of preference, rather than purpose of the information that validates that there isn't a God. Now, never did God say, he says in the heavens. The heavens never truly said that is right after you leave Earth. The heavens could be anywhere, could be out of our universe. We really don't know what the heavens is. We just choose to believe that the heavens is above us, outside of our world.
I heard you say that atheists don't believe in God out of preference because it's because there is no absolute knowledge that there is no God or there is a God, right? And so, but for example, if someone came from an atheist perspective, they would say that I don't believe in God because there is no reason for me to believe in God at all, right? And then there is no evidence whatsoever for me to cause me to believe in God. And any religion that claims that God is real, I would reduce to flaws and invalidity in terms of biblical text or scriptural text, and a lot of illogical flaws in terms of doctrine as well.
I mean, that would be very that to that I would say is this. The difference between a reason and an excuse is if you believe it or not. If I told you I couldn't do this show today after I committed to it, and I said the reasons why I can't do it is because I have other obligations. Whether you believe me as me being honest and truthful will determine if you accept it as a reason. Whether you don't believe me or not will tell, well, if you do not believe me, then you say, okay, that's an excuse. The only difference between reason and excuse is the belief of the individual who's hearing it. So in this case, I'll tell the atheist that you're seeing this as not reason enough because you don't believe it. And therefore you are closing off to the actuality and probability that it could be truthful. So it's not so much the information is not there, is that you don't believe the information is being
So
factual.
then, for example, if someone were to be very irrational in terms of their judgment on what they believe, right? So if the Bible didn't seem very irrational to them, then that wouldn't be based on any preference or any belief. That would simply be coming from a very what someone would call objective stance.
Well, it's only objective if it's universal. If the stats is universal, then it's objective. But if it's only if it's only based on your own personal interpretation of the stats, then it's subjective. So there are billions of people who said God exists, and then you're a part of the few who said God doesn't exist. Are you part of the objective, or are you part of the subject? I guess the thing about it is that it's objective. Objective is much more based upon societal's understanding, societal's agreement. Society has to agree that this is what it is. I'll take, for example, I'll give you, for example, a word. Let's say good or lawful. Society defines lawful as being something that we all abide by. Somebody going by the way of the law, right? That's an objective definition. But what I consider subjectively to be lawful may be different than what you subjectively consider to be lawful. We each have our subjective rubric. If the society itself says that God exists, a person subjectively say, no, he doesn't, and these are my evidence as to why. But if majority of the people in this world says, because right now, I think it's almost 1 billion Muslim, over 1 billion Christians, and over 7-8 million Jews, the numbers are astronomically more in those who have faith than those who don't. So the question is, who's the outlier? Because the objective is those who actually represent the majority of society, not the minority. Won't you agree on that?
That would differ from some society to society, what you would be called objective, right? But in terms of what is truly objective, that would be let's say, how about scientific? Let's use the word scientific. Scientifically, the Bible doesn't add up. There are a lot of flaws, and you couldn't scientifically say that what everything that the Bible says is objectively true, because
I mean, that's factual. The Bible is not supported scientifically, and I would honestly say that science is modern. So you're applying a modern phenomenon to recall something that it hasn't seen. It wasn't there for. Science can only quantify or measure something that is within the present. For example, science does not know the actual weight of an atom. We give it an approximation. And so if science can actually physically has its hand on it in the moment, it can actually measure it. Could you measure the impact of an atomic bomb now than before then? From World War II, could you measure it now? No. You only measure it in the moment. Science only captures what's in the moment and projects what it can be in the future. Science cannot capture what has already occurred and try to apply it into the moment. So these things are something that's not measurable in the moment.
There are scientific methods that would be in some way abductive. You know, that they know certain principles that is bound by the universe is bound by, and they can test that that would be consistent even during the time of the Bible. And so any miracles that the Bible would present would mean that it would break these already scientific rules, right? So so basically that scientists can infer that something like a miracle wouldn't be able to happen unless it was a literal miracle, and so you cannot really test an outlier event because you claim it is an outlier event.
You can't test an outlier event because it is labeled as an outlier. Because it's an outlier, you cannot really measure it. Is that what you're saying? I mean, I think in that case, then we're saying the same thing. That's saying like science cannot really measure what happened as an outlier because it has nothing else to compare it to. And since it's an outlier, science would not be able to put it in a pigeonhole. That's what science tries to do with everything, is to put it in a category and label it. It won't be able to label it. Since it can't label it, you can't say God doesn't exist because that's outside of the realm of scientific inquiry. And scientifically, they cannot prove that he does or doesn't exist, because how would science measure God's existence? How does science measure our existence? If you ask a scientist what is life, they'll say the ability to breathe, and that's it. But each individual have a very subjective definition of life. Some people say equal life. What is equal life? That's something that's not measurable by science or by any other means.
Okay. Then let's say that science wouldn't be able to test the Bible, but for example, the Bible would claim very, very different events compared to what science says. For example, Genesis. That is very, very. They can prove in a way that the Earth is millions of years old and not what young Earth creationists
Well, I mean,
claim.
I don't think the Bible ever gives a time frame of how old the Earth is. I think the Bible says God created the heavens and the earth, and it doesn't say He created heaven and earth in 29 BC or 29 AD. He doesn't give a time frame of it, because I think time is a man-made construction that was created well after Christ died by, I believe, secular folks to try to keep track of what's going on. I think Galileo was even one of the ones who were affected the way we look at time right now.
It's really obvious that the genealogy from Adam to Jesus would set a time frame that would be at a maximum 9,000 years old.
I mean, that would be falsified way to keep track of genealogy through father. Anyone who understands science will tell you that you cannot track lineage through the father. It's only tracked through the mother, because everybody shares the mitochondria, which is passed on from their mother to the child, no matter what gender it is. Mother genealogical track is much more accurate scientifically than a father, because the father genes are not. No, you have more cells in your body from your mother than are from your.
Yeah, but what I mean is that in the Bible, or for example, in the New Testament, it clearly states a very specific genealogy from Adam to Jesus, and you could.
Can I ask you this? Because the Bible is not very detailed; it's very vague and spots all over the place a little bit. Who was Jesse? Jesse was the son of Ohad and the grandson of Boaz and Ruth, and was a farmer and sheep breeder in Bethlehem.
This is a very specific genealogy from there is Adam to Seth to Enosh, and it leads to Jesus actually. And when you account, let's say that people in Adam's time aged up to 1,000 years old, that's still a very short time. So that would probably be 9,000 years. That's the accepted time frame.
Okay. So if we go that accepted time frame, and we say that everything as we stated is agreed upon, and 9,000 years, of human existence on Earth. And you were saying that scientists says that the Earth is dated back to over 200,000 years, right? Do we know how long Adam and Eve lived in the Garden of Eden before they get kicked out?
I'm not sure, but I'm okay. Yeah, I'm not sure, but it would seem that, let's say that they were there for maybe 10 years. Okay, how about that? 10 years in Garden of Eden. How long do you think the earth itself, when you age it in terms of
I mean, 10 years is very great. I mean, you're talking about people living in perfection. And before even Eve was born or was created from Adam's rib, Adam lived there for God knows how long. And also, you got to remember that a day to God and a day to us is very different. So, we're talking about 7 days. That can be a very unmeasurable time frame. The Bible is very vague and creates an unmeasurable time frame that we don't understand how to measure. And science provides human measurements to a biblical time frame. Can you truly do that and actually measure it accurately?
Okay. I get what you're saying. Then Noah's time. Do you think there was a global flood or simply a local flood?
Global back then was the world was very small. So people concept of the world was very small. So could it have been actually truly global? I doubt it. Could it actually truly have been a local? Possibly. But even science talk about global flood happening, actually being truthful. Just that the ice melted during the ice ages and it actually raised the seawater. So, I mean, it depends on what aspect of it you're looking at to really truly get a measurement.
Okay, so we were looking at naturalistic explanations for the Bible, right? And you probably won't deny evolution as well.
Do I deny evolution? I can deny what I don't know.
Okay, so you disagree that humanity came from evolving from a small cell?
I don't think I disagree with it. I think that that evolution could be possible. It could have been, God's way of making us. He just said he brought us to life. He doesn't say from what or from how.
So naturalistic explanations for biblical phenomena and miracles. Okay, but and I see what your side is here, and I talk to a lot of people who have similar opinions, and so then an atheist would present to you facts or logical facts on why God wouldn't actually exist. For example, he would say that if God was perfect and complete, then why would he need to create something? That would mean that there was something missing from him initially for him to actually fulfill a need. How would you answer that?
The idea of perfect complete that I'll say you're using in that definition is that complete means everything is there. You are giving your subjective definition of the word or your own personal belief of the word as opposed to his. And what I realize I would say that is because I think each person have a personal subjective definition of certain things. What completes you might be completed right now, but does that mean you don't want to have kids? And I think, go ahead.
So it seems that you're presenting that it's simply an overabundance of God's love or his self glory that he would create, right?
Well, not so much that. I think that God saw it as a chance to create us and create what he created as an answer to sharing his completeness, as a way to say, you know what, I am complete. And since I am complete, I'm able to create something else that I believe will be as complete as me.
Yeah, I really understand your position here. So if an atheist would say that it would take a lot of faith to believe that Jesus actually existed, because based on simply biblical evidence, that's not enough to support it. And so Why would I have believe in something that doesn't seem to be to have actually existed?
Okay. To actually exist, I'll question. My first question would be to them is, what do you consider to be existing? What evidence would you need to show you that he existed? Do you need to see a picture? Do you need to see him walking on the street? Do you need to see evidence that we have today? Do you believe? Do you believe the czar, the very first czar of Russia, ever existed? If there wasn't pictures of him, do you believe Genghis Khan existed if we wouldn't have pictures of him? Or why?
Well, I think the logical answer to that, because there was stories that he existed, accounts, different texts on history that would prove he was real.
Well, wouldn't you say each book in the Bible is different texts on history that prove Jesus was real?
Okay. Okay. So then, for example, I don't really have knowledge on how to dismantle the Bible, but this is how I would put it. The Bible has been in the hands of the Roman Empire, and they have used it to as a way to control the population, right? And that is what, and in terms of what the Bible says, there are a lot of evidence that there are changes to what it actually says. And how would you answer that?
You know, I'll be honest with you, completely honest. My personal belief is that religion is like politics. It's a political ideology that is formulated to how we should live. You try to answer that question, and what is best for us to live by. It creates an objective morality that every person shares. So to answer that question, honestly and truthfully, we do need it. And it is going to be tweaked as society changes. For example, there are people who are finding books in the Bible that says homosexuality is okay, or trying to find ways to make it seem like God is accepting of all people. So as time goes on, people are going to tweak the way they think we should live to fit the moral scope of the time that we live in. Religion is never fixed. If you look back even on the Japanese history of creation, they believe that gods came down and point their staff in the sea and raised the 4 islands up. They believe that was the center of the world, but that has changed. Everybody's religion transforms and adapts and creates something new each and every time.
Absolutely no evidence that God exists, nor God doesn't exist. So therefore, I would have to rely on my preferences, right? That's what you said. So because I rely on my preferences, I see no need to believe in any God, and that if God really wanted me to believe in Him, he would actually show Himself to me, and if He really loves me and wants to save me, then He would give me enough evidence to actually believe. So, and therefore, right now I see no evidence, and I have no reason to believe in Him.
That's a very elitist type of approach. It's like all these other people believe it, but I see no evidence, so I don't believe it. And since God wants me to believe like they do, He should do more than He has done for them. That's like saying I deserve more proof than they do. If it's enough proof for them, why is it not enough for you?
So I'm guessing that, for example, there will also be the argument for why is there evil in the world, and an omnibenevolent God, an all benevolent God would not allow any evil happening in His creation. How would you explain that?
So evil is, like things that are things that are opposite of good, right? So like, if I was to come on this show and speak on things that are not necessarily in line with your vision, You would you stop me? That's how you're made in his image. Your ability to allow people to have the free choice and free will to do what they think is right, whether it's right or wrong. I think the last Marvel movie captured it perfectly. I think Thanos had a sense that he was saving the world. He was doing the right thing, although he was causing half the life of the universe. Evil, right and wrong, it's a matter of perspective inside you on. People think they're always doing the right thing. So I think God allows us to do what we believe is right, although it doesn't measure up to His standards. But He wants you to see what are you going to do the things that aligns with me without me forcing you to do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So one last the argument that I would say, for example, um, if I would this would be referred to those who are similar, do have an understanding that uh, being saved would mean that you were predetermined by God to be saved, right? So if everybody, so if God wanted everyone to be saved, and that they would people can only be saved if God actually decided or chose you to be saved, then why would God create a universe or a scenario where there would be people who wouldn't be saved, or who wouldn't choose Him?
I'm personally from I don't adhere to predestination, but if I was to just have some fun with this real fast, I got to answer that in a succinct way would be that there are people. God, I guess, since God is all knowing, He already knows who's going to be saved because He's already able to see. He's all knowing, all seeing. He already knows what's going to happen. So since He already knows, it's not about predestination. It's much more about I have already had the recollection and knowledge of what's going to happen before you even do it. And since I already have that recollection and knowledge, I'm just allowing you to do what is best and to see if you're going to come to fruition with what it is. You get what I'm saying? If I intervene and say and stop it, then what I know is going to be wrong.
Yeah, but as we were talking about that, if the God ultimately God has control of the outcome, and He is the providence would say that whatever the outcome, it was ultimately up to God, right? And so how would you explain that?
Well, if you say God has a control of the outcome, don't you think that he has already ran different scenarios to save that person, and the outcome still remain the same?
Yeah. So then, whoever the person is, for example, if God were to say create me, and that in all possible scenarios there was actually no instance to which I believed in God, would that be my fault? Because whoever I am, however I am created, that was ultimately up to God as well. So He had the power to create me differently, but He chose not to.
So He should have created you in a way to where you were able to be saved.
If God ultimately wanted everyone to be saved, He would present the best scenario.
So basically, you're saying God should create drones who just goes to the end goal that He wants. And instead of us being humans with free will and free ability to decide and rationalize and logically think, He should just makes all of us mindless drones that just goes the way He wants us to go.
Well, if you compare
To
it,
make it more utopic.
okay, so if you compare it, if you compare that reality to a reality where billions of people go to hell, suffer in hell for all eternity, I would choose the utopia.
Well, I mean, that utopia is utopia to who? Utopia without ability of choice is utopic to the person who's in control, not to the people who are living it.
Okay, so what you're saying is that a utopia would be utterly meaningless if it is not shared, right? If the drones themselves do not have any control that to make it a utopia. Okay, so then in terms of, let's say, what is good, which is a better scenario, it would be probably subjective, right, in terms of which is preferred. Mm-hmm. Okay, then ultimately, how would we measure how would you measure which scenario is better? Because I'm thinking that you would actually prefer a reality where billions suffer in hell for all eternity, but that there is a group of people in heaven who chose to be in heaven and create this perfect heaven.
To compare this on a secular level, it's almost like, and this is going to be a very, very strange comparison. It's almost like capitalism, where your actions and your deeds determine the result, or in some sense, communism, where everybody's on the same level. We're all drones doing the same thing, getting paid, getting an equal outcome, regardless of what we put in. So the question is, do you want a system where there are some people who are going to succeed and rise, or those who are some going to actually, falter and fall? Which one do you truly want? Do you want to have the chance of seeing your decisions and your work gains based upon your merits? Or do you want a decision of where everything's already done, no matter what you do, how you do it, the outcome's going to be the same? You could kill 10,000 people, you're still going to go to heaven.
So then, if you decided to the world, actually, I think that they would choose the capitalist because, well, that's the current prevailing economic system now. But I guess that that's very subjective still, in terms of even in a secular terms. Okay, so. For example, if there was at least one person who would, in his subjective way, disagree with the capitalistic heavenly universe or reality, that would actually mean that he would be a victim of this, right? Because, and so when when a person is a victim to which a system that he would have never preferred in any reality, then that would mean that God is unjust, because he put people in situations where they had no choice but to love him and worship him.
I won't say unjust. I would say what you would say then is not necessarily unjust, because justice will always go back to the law of the land, rather than to the law of the law of fairness. Someone might say that's unfair. I didn't have a chance to have a vote and saying it. But as the old saying goes, the sons live up to the agreements that the fathers determine. So it's not necessarily that it's unfair or it's unjust. It's much more as if you would feel as if you didn't have a say in it. But now you do have a say, because now as an adult, someone who you can choose to either partake or leave, and that's your choice. That's the reason why we have that free will. You're not compelled to stay, but I think people feel compelled because that's all they know. Since it's all you know, you say, well, I didn't have a choice in choosing what I know. I should have a choice in choosing. Well, that's like science. You have a choice in choosing what was right and what was wrong. It was taught to you. This is science. This is how you look at it. This is what it is. So it's not a matter of right or wrong. It's a matter of you feeling without a choice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I completely understand. And so then, I think, for example, for an individual in this God inclusive reality, then, for example, if God, we're simply fortunate that God is an all loving and all benevolent God, because in terms of being human, we have no power over reality. Whatever we think subjectively is good or bad, we have no power over what is the prevailing standard in the universe. So
I think that's a false. That's quite a kind of false. I think the thing is that God gave us power over it with our ability to choose what we believe and what we don't believe. You have the power over reality if you believe it or not. As scholars said, reality is perception. If you perceive it, therefore it's real. Now, how real it is we share in society is dependent upon what others around you believe. If we both believe that God doesn't exist, then that's our reality. Our reality is God is not real. But if we both believe that God exists, then our reality is that there is a God. You have the choice.
Okay, but there's a problem there, though. For example, okay, we do have a choice and to believe in what reality, but then the problem is if there is a God in the universe and we are able to choose a reality in which we believe in, if we for to say believe that God was not real, we would be punished for all eternity for what we chose to believe.
And the issue is that you have to accept your decision no matter what it is. A lot of people wants to be right. There's fear of being wrong, but there's a risk to everything. You have to accept the fact that you might be wrong and be like, if I'm wrong, this is what's going to happen. The same way if I accept the fact that there is a God and there isn't, there's consequences with that. And the consequences might be I may not have enjoyed life as much as I probably could, but that's a choice you make. And choices have consequences. You cannot be fearful of consequences.
Yeah, but the thing though here is that, for example, it is up to me. It was a risk I took to not or to believe in God, but if in a God inclusive universe, the problem here is that if God were to have given me a choice to believe or not believe in Him, it would have been up to Him to give me enough information so that I would believe in Him, for me to actually be end up in the heavenly paradise, right? So it's still up to God in a way to control the outcome because he has the power to do it, and if he desired for everyone to be saved, he would create that outcome.
And once more, I would. I'm sorry if I kind of went off. Once more, my question would be completely to you: is that why is your necessity for belief higher when there are billions who already believe in him, and the evidence he's provided to believe it? You're saying those evidence is not good enough for you. You want more. So how is God demand? How is you demanding more from God just?
Okay. So this is how I would answer that. Uh, uh it's not that okay. It's not that I don't have uh I I present a need. Okay, I'm sorry. There's a problem with the computer. The disk space is full, and it stopped recording. So can we end this shortly, and then I could delete some stuff so that we can continue the conversation. Okay, thanks, man. Thanks for understanding. Yeah, we have. It's really awesome this conversation, and I want to continue it, but I can't record it if the disk is full. Okay, awesome. Thanks. 3. Okay. So, yeah. I could be. It could be fair for me to say that you have some very rational reasons as to why you believe in God, and you have a very good idea of who God is. Then, can you tell us about the kind of God you believe in and why?
Oh, well, probably this. I'm a third generation preacher's kid. I think my uncle's a preacher. My grandfather was a preacher as well as my great grandfather. I think if I want to remember correctly, he was a missionary. I went back to Africa. So I have pretty deep roots as far as it goes. But for me, God is someone who is, if you do the right thing, you put yourself in the right position. Is he benevolent? Yes, but he's also asks for cooperation from others. As the Bible says, the Bible also and I think it's in Ruth, where the story was about leaving 10% of their yield for others. You do 90% of the work, and he does the last 10% of the yield for you have a good harvest. We also have to do our part. And in us doing our part, we always have to look for his help in doing a little bit that makes a difference between prosperity and failure. I think a lot of people want God to do 90% of the work and they only do 10, which is the problem. So he's a person who depends on your hard work. He gives you the little bit to get over the top.
It's been great talking to you, Stephen, and I hope that we could do more episodes about it and we could focus less on theism and more about other stuff that could be interesting as well.
Oh man, definitely agree, man. I'm surprised you didn't go with some of the hot topics in today. I said, like I told you before, I'm pretty open. I have ideas on everything, opinions on everything. Whatever you want to do it again, just let me know. If I'm open, I'll definitely do it.
So that's the end of it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. This is your host, Elmo Ador Jr. And thank you for listening in. And please subscribe. Please follow us on Facebook. Please follow this. Please. Thanks.
We're moving in a new direction, moving forward, and moving beyond smoking. We are Altria, and our companies are leading the way in moving adult smokers away from cigarettes by taking action to transition millions toward potentially less harmful choices as we move from being known as a tobacco company to being recognized as a tobacco harm reduction company. Altria is moving beyond smoking. Find out how at altria.com.
If you're a movie collector, you need Movies Anywhere. It pulls your favorite purchase movies from participating digital retailers into one central place, so you can finally say goodbye to scattered movie collections and hello to an organized library. With Movies Anywhere, you can watch your favorite movies on any compatible device, whenever and wherever you want. Ready to grow and enjoy your digital collection? Visit moviesanywhere.com/welcome and register for free. Registration with Movies Anywhere required. Open to U.S. residents 13 and over.